Jonathan, this is the street that just under 24 hours ago was the scene of an extraordinary and appalling series of events. What had ostensibly begun as a tribute to a young man who tragically lost his life was distorted into something far removed from that. 200 people rioting down this hill, destroying vehicles, throwing objects, even battling the emergency services. The victims here are the people who live here, terrorised in the very place that they call home. A stolen car plunges down a hill, with another already in flames. As the wreckage burns, the rioters laugh. All this in daylight on a Swansea street. Chelsea watched it unfold only metres from the family home.
When I arrived home, the cars were on fire. It was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. Windows through. No police, nothing at the moment when we did come back.
And what was going through your mind coming back and seeing that?
I didn't think I'd have a house left. I didn't think I'd have a house, and that's terrifying. And there's young babies in the street. There's elderly, and they keep themselves to themselves. They don't bother anybody. They don't. And the fact that it's happened here in the place that we're meant to feel safe, it's not a place that I want to live anymore. I've come back today, I'm packing my home up, and I'm leaving.
Now this is the point where one of the cars was set alight and came to a stop. The burnt out cars were removed overnight and much of the rubbish was moved in the early hours of the morning. But the damage to those houses over there is still all too evident, and people living around here say they're still worried and they're angry about how this was allowed to happen and why it wasn't stopped.
My mother had everyone ready just in case leave for the back garden. It was
because they were worried about the fires?
Yeah, it was literally outside the boiler. It was so big, it was nearly catching onto the fence. Honestly, it was just at one point we all thinking, oh, we better lock all the windows, doors down just in case they all run into the houses. Seeing my sister panicking, locked in the other room furthest away from this just so she doesn't see stuff like this.
This morning, the clean-up. Neighbours teaming up with council workers to clear away the wreckage from the night before.
We were just appalled at everything that's gone on. It's not right. It's not how Townhill or Mayhill is. It's not how the people behave. So we were just all pretty much appalled and disgusted and ashamed of what's gone on in our community. Nobody condones what's gone on. And I think everybody just pulled together for obviously all the residents on the hill, which, they put up with things they didn't deserve.
South Wales Police insist their response was immediate and say their own officers came under attack. They've promised robust action against people involved. This afternoon, repairs were beginning, but for those caught up in these events, the emotional damage may be long-lasting. Well, we've been here right since the early hours of the day, seeing that extraordinary clear-up effort that took place this morning. That was people who just had heard and seen those awful pictures and wanted to do something to help the people who've been worst affected by it. People turning up before they took their children to school, before they went to work themselves. I think the real thing that's come across with all of the people who we've spoken to today, a great many who were very anxious to talk to us but maybe didn't feel it was appropriate to go on camera, or maybe even a little worried about doing that, is saying this is not representative of the Mayhill that we know. There are people living on this street who've lived here for decades. There are people with families, there are people with young families, people on their own, really, really anxious that the awful scenes we saw last night aren't representative of that. In the time we've been here today, we have seen some progress that the police talk about there. More police patrols gently going around the area, these large bollards being put in place. But for the people who've been shaken by the experiences of last night, it's probably going to take a little bit more than this before they feel safe in their homes again.
OK, Mike, thank you very much indeed.